A life without meaning is a weight that no strength can carry. But a life infused with purpose, even if drenched in pain, becomes strangely bearable, as if some hidden current lifts us beyond the limits of endurance. What is this mystery, this invisible force that allows fragile beings of flesh and bone to stand against storms that should break them? What is this why of which Nietzsche speaks, that transforms the unbearable into the bearable, the tragic into the profound? The answer does not lie in the denial of suffering. Suffering remains what it is, sharp, unyielding, at times overwhelming. But suffering without a frame, without orientation, devours us. It swallows every horizon and leaves only darkness. Yet suffering that is illumined by purpose becomes a threshold. It may still wound, but it does not annihilate. Instead, it points beyond itself toward a meaning greater than the pain. History is filled with silent witnesses to this truth. Prisoners in camps, exiles far from home, artists who painted with trembling hands, mystics confined to solitude, all found in their own way a reason to endure. Some called it faith, others love, others still the work of their life. The shape of the why varies endlessly, but its essence remains the same. It anchors the soul when all else seems lost. To live without a purpose is to drift like a ship whose rudder is broken, tossed endlessly by every wave, never arriving anywhere. But to live with even a faint spark of meaning is to carry within oneself a compass no storm can erase. Pain does not vanish, but it ceases to be meaningless noise. It becomes part of a deeper melody, one that we may not yet fully hear, but which whispers of direction, of movement, of significance. Purpose is not necessarily grand or dramatic. It need not be carved into monuments or sung in epic tales. Sometimes it is as simple as a vow whispered in silence, a promise made to another, or even a quiet fidelity to one's own soul. What matters is not the size of the purpose, but its truth. A small but genuine why can withstand more suffering than 1,000 false pretenses. Yet here arises the paradox. Meaning cannot be fabricated by sheer will. We cannot simply invent a purpose like we might invent a story. If it is to hold us, it must touch the root of our being. It must resonate with something deeper than convenience, deeper even than desire. Perhaps this is why so many search for years, restless and unsatisfied, until they stumble upon the thread that binds them to life. Is it not curious that some endure mountains of difficulty with calm strength, while others collapse under the weight of a single misfortune? The difference, perhaps, is not in the size of the burden, but in the presence or absence of that inner flame. Purpose does not erase struggle, but it reshapes it. The how becomes tolerable, not because it is softened, but because it is illuminated. Pain loses its venom when it is bound to meaning. Pain may still sting, but it no longer defines the whole horizon. It becomes instead a passage, a harsh teacher, yes, but a teacher still. And so the question arises in each of us, what is the why that holds my life? What is the thread that will not break, even when all else seems fragile? Perhaps to move toward the answer, we must first learn to sit with the question. For the question itself has the power to open a space within us, a silence where something greater may reveal itself. But if the why is what strengthens us, then where is it found? Is it something we choose, or something that chooses us? Is purpose a gift or a task? This is the path we must enter next. If the why is what strengthens us, then where is it found? Is it something we choose or something that chooses us? Is purpose the gift whispered from beyond or a task carved from within? Perhaps it is both. Purpose is not a rigid blueprint fixed once and for all. It is more like a living current, shaping and reshaping itself as life unfolds. At times, it reveals itself clearly in a single conviction or calling. At other times, it hides in the shadows, demanding patience, silence, and the willingness to wait without certainty. To search for meaning is not unlike seeking the source of a river. We begin at the wide mouth, where the waters are restless and loud. But as we trace it back, the current narrows, the noise quiets, until at last we discover a small, hidden spring emerging softly from the earth. Likewise, the why of our life often lies concealed, not in the clamor of external pursuits, but in the still places where the heart listens. And yet, meaning is not given to us as a possession. It cannot be clutched or hoarded. It is discovered through relationship, through the way we stand before joy and suffering, through the way we meet the faces of others, through the way we respond to the call of each moment. Purpose is less a static object than a living dialogue between ourselves and existence. This is why no single definition can contain it. For one, the why may appear in the devotion to a loved one. For another, in the creation of beauty, or in service, or in the pursuit of truth. And for some, it is found not in doing, but in being, in the silent acceptance that life itself, in all its mystery, is enough of a reason to endure. But what unites these varied expressions is a shift in orientation. Suffering ceases to be seen as an enemy to be eliminated at any cost, and instead becomes a field in which meaning can be cultivated. Pain is not glorified, but it is not wasted either. It becomes raw material, clay that the soul shapes into significance. Here we touch a truth echoed by many traditions. In Stoic thought, adversity is the testing ground where virtue is proven. In the depths of mystical traditions, trials are seen as fires that refine the soul. Even in psychology, as Viktor Frankl observed, those who endured the harshest of conditions often did so by holding on to a meaning greater than themselves. Across time and cultures, the pattern repeats. Endurance flows not from brute strength, but from the quiet power of purpose. Consider a tree standing in the storm. Its branches may shatter, its leaves may be torn away. Yet, if the roots are deep, the tree does not fall. The roots are unseen, hidden beneath the soil, yet they are the source of its strength. In the same way, our why is rarely visible on the surface of our lives. Others may see only our struggles, our brokenness, our outward fragility. But beneath it all lies the root, the hidden reason that keeps us upright when the winds howl. Still, the question lingers, what if one feels rootless, unable to name a purpose? Must such a person be condemned to drift? Not necessarily. Sometimes purpose does not reveal itself in advance. It emerges only through the act of living. The river discovers its own shape by flowing. We too may find our meaning not by waiting for certainty, but by walking the path with openness, allowing each step to teach us what our why truly is. In this sense, the search for purpose itself is meaningful. The longing, the questioning, the restless hunger, they are not signs of failure, but signs that the soul has already begun to awaken. For even in the absence of clarity, The very thirst for meaning binds us to life. But if the roots of endurance lie hidden, if meaning is both discovered and created, then what does this reveal about the strange bond between suffering and purpose? Could it be that the very cracks in our existence are the places through which meaning seeps in? Perhaps the why is not found in spite of the storm, but because of it. Perhaps the winds that threaten to uproot us are also the ones that drive our roots deeper into the soil. And so we arrive at a paradox. Suffering threatens to destroy us, yet at the same time, it can carve the space in which purpose is born. But can we accept this? Can we look at our pain not only as something to endure, but as something that secretly points us toward meaning? This is where our reflection must turn next. Perhaps the why is not found in spite of the storm, but because of it. Perhaps the winds that threaten to uproot us are also the very forces that drive our roots deeper into the soil. This is the paradox we carry, that the weight which bends us is also the weight that gives us strength. Life does not spare us from suffering. No philosophy, no faith, no wisdom tradition has ever promised a path without wounds. What they remind us instead is that pain can become the chisel through which meaning is carved into the stone of existence. Without the cracks, there would be no place for the light to enter. Without the shadows, there would be no measure for the radiance. Nietzsche's insight was not that we are invincible, but that the human spirit is sustained by direction. We can endure almost anyhow when our gaze is fixed upon a why that transcends the immediate. This why does not erase the hardships of existence. It does not silence grief or eliminate struggle, but it gives them shape, transforms them from chaos into path. Consider the mountain climber, battered by wind and cold. If the climb were meaningless, the pain would break him. But because the summit calls, each step, though difficult, becomes part of a larger story. Consider the mother who endures sleepless nights and endless sacrifices. Without love, the exhaustion would crush her, but with love, the same exhaustion becomes a form of devotion. Consider the seeker who faces inner turmoil and uncertainty. Without vision, despair might consume him, but with purpose, every trial becomes a teacher. In each case, the pain remains, yet it is transfigured. What was once unbearable becomes a thread in a greater tapestry. Meaning does not cancel suffering, it baptizes it into significance. And yet, there is still a deeper mystery. For some, the why may not be a clear goal, or a defined duty, or even an outward cause. It may simply be the recognition that life itself, in its raw and unadorned presence, is worthy of bearing. To awaken in the morning, to feel the breath move in and out, to stand beneath the endless sky, this too can be a purpose, small and immense at once. The sheer fact of being here, of touching existence, may be enough. When this realization dawns, suffering itself changes hue. We cease to ask only, how do I escape this pain? And instead whisper, what is this pain revealing? For every wound has a voice, every trial conceals a hidden flame. Resistance to life becomes less about avoidance and more about alignment, aligning with the meaning that suffering points toward, even when it arrives disguised. The journey through hardship is not a detour from meaning. It is often the very road by which meaning is uncovered. Like fire consuming dry wood, suffering strips away the excess, the illusions, the false securities, leaving behind a clearer essence. And what remains, though scarred, is also more real. To live with the why is not to live without pain, but to live with orientation. It is to know that though the night is long, it is not endless. That though the valley is deep,
it is not without exit, that though we are wounded, we are not without worth. Perhaps this is the gift hidden in Nietzsche's words, that we are not asked to be free of pain, but to be faithful to meaning. And in that fidelity, we discover a strength greater than the pain itself. So the question is no longer whether suffering will come, it will. The question is, when it does, what story will we weave from it? What why will we root ourselves in so that the storm does not uproot us, but instead drives us deeper into life? For in the end, it is not the absence of struggle that makes life bearable, it is the presence of purpose. With it, the journey is no longer a burden to endure, but a path to walk with dignity. With it, life ceases to be merely survival and becomes an unfolding pilgrimage, where even the broken stones beneath our feet become part of the way. And so, if you find yourself in the fire, remember, it is not only consuming you, it is also refining you. Ashes are not the end, they are the soil in which new meaning takes root. If these reflections have spoken to you, I invite you to walk further with us. Like the roots that hold the tree, your support helps this path continue. Like the flame that endures the wind, your presence keeps this journey alive. So if you feel called, let your appreciation be known through a simple like, through subscribing, so that this shared search for meaning may grow. For as long as we breathe, there will always be storms. But as long as we live with the why, the storms themselves can carry us toward the summit.